Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. As you'll know if you watched my sort of announcement and TBR video, which I will link up above and down below for you to see, I am doing a bit of a magical readathon catch-up. I really wanted to get back into the loop and do everything that you guys that have been participating since the beginning have been doing, rather than just sort of jumping in and creating a character that I haven't really earned or anything. So that's exactly what I'm doing. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is creating my character. So I know that technically Novice Path kind of came first in terms of the order of things, and then creating your character was something you had a bit more time to do before the first gear up and then the first semester. But I decided that I wanted to create my character first before I do anything, because it just seems like a nice foundational thing that I can do. So referring to the Traveler's Key, which is also in the Google Drive, we have two options for background of the character. They are wilding and urban, and now both of these options relate to a specific prompt. So the wilding prompt is to read a book largely set in a forest or outside, and then the urban prompt is, as you would expect, read a book set in a city or a town. Now I want my character to be urban, so what I decided to go with, and you'll know this if you watch my TBR, was After We Collided by Todd. And the reason that I went with this is because it's on my TBR for this month, for August. So I have to read it anyway, so I'm trying to just do that. And you'll find, I think, with a lot of my sort of books for the first couple of rounds, I'm just trying to smash out my TBR books. But as for life plans at the moment, it is Friday night currently, so what I need to do is pack, because I am going to visit a friend in Wales this weekend. I'm super excited to go and see my friend Mel and yeah, just hang out with her and Ben and have a bit of fun, just venturing around, hanging out with their lovely dog. But yeah, so that's my plans for this weekend, but that means tonight that I really need to pack. So luckily I've got the book on audiobook so I can listen while I pack, and yeah, I'll update you guys once I've actually read some of this book. But my thoughts on this are not going to be very analytical, because it's not really the sort of book you analyze. God, it's really bright in here. It's making my face look one color, but anyway, that doesn't matter. It's the morning. It's like 7 a.m. I am too tired to try and figure out the lighting situation. But I just wanted to come in here very quickly to give you guys an update just before I head off and leave and go to Wales with Ben to see our friend. And I just wanted to say that I have read a little bit of After We Collided by Todd last night. I've been listening to the audiobook at the same time as reading this, and I have to say the audiobook narrators are cracking me up, because so there's clearly a male and a female audiobook narrator, because this book is written in two perspectives, Hardin's and Tessa's. But in the book, when a female talks while it's in Hardin's perspective, the male narrator tries to put on a female voice and then vice versa, and it's just so awkward and entertaining and so bad. Wouldn't it make sense to just have the female narrator come and do those little bits so that it just doesn't sound like a guy going like, oh, you know, you wanted me before, and it's just like, whoa. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm reading this at the moment. It's enjoyable, but it's, you know, it's shit still. Hardin is doing a lot of groveling after what he put Tessa through, trying to get her back, and she seems to sort of be caving slowly to him. I'm having some issues with Tessa as a character, because definitely in the way the book's positioned in the first book, it all seems like it's Hardin's fault and everything's on him and it's all his fault and he's the only one in the wrong. But in this particular book, I'm noticing a few things about Tessa that are really, like, she's clearly not the best either. She's clearly quite manipulative too. You know, she kisses another guy but then sort of blames it on Hardin, and I'm just like, well, no, honey, own your actions. Like, you kissed another guy. You know, it wasn't wrong to do that, but don't go and try and pretend it's someone else's fault. Like, you kissed someone, that's on you. And then the way that she treats her mother as well, like, I know her mother isn't the best person. I know her mother's very judgmental, very manipulative, not a fabulous mother, but Tessa's just like, her mother supported her through this breakup that she's had with Hardin, and she's tried to be there for her in the only way she knows how. And then Christmas comes around and Tessa's like, no, I don't really want to go spend Christmas with my mom. I'm like, I know if my mom supported me through something really difficult and then I turned around and was like, no, I don't like you, I don't want to spend Christmas with you, she would actually kill me. So I'm like, why can Tessa do that? And it's totally fine. Like, why is that excusable? And what message is that sending to kids, that your parents are just expendable? Like, if you have a really bad relationship with your parents and you need to separate from them, fair enough, but like, you know, then it's not the worst. And she's just like treating him like shit, and I think that's really horrible. The way Hardin is with his family, there's definitely some bridges being repaired there, but I think it's really strange that, like, despite everything Hardin's done, his dad is like, oh, I'd rather be on Tessa's side than yours. Like, isn't your parents supposed to support you no matter what and be there for you? And like, if you've done a bad thing, they're supposed to like help you and not completely disown you for your girlfriend. And that's exactly what Hardin's parents have done to him, which I thought was really strange. But yeah, there's just a lot going on in this book. It's definitely, you can tell it's definitely written by a person who's the same age range as her target audience at the time that it was written. I am only like 140-ish pages into this book, and I already have so much to say about how weird it is, but I'm sure I'm going to be saying less and less and less because it's just going to be more of the same as I continue reading. But yeah, that's my thoughts on After We Collided at the moment. As I said before, I'm just about to head off to Wales. I'll bring you guys with me, film some clips and things of while I'm there, what we get up to. If I get a chance to do any reading, I might film some reading updates, but I don't know. It's just really a weekend to relax because it's been so hectic at work lately and with the flat stuff and all this sort of things. So it's just a chance to really get away and not think about anything and hang out with a really lovely dog and a really lovely friend. So yeah, I'm gonna go and I will see you guys in my next update. Finally landed in Wales. I have arrived in Wales. I am here. It is a sort of cloudy, rainy day, but that's totally fine because after the heat wave we've been having in London at the moment, I am welcoming the cold. This is so much better than what I've been experiencing at the moment. But anyway, I've arrived and I just wanted to give you guys a quick reading update because I spent basically the whole train journey reading After We Collided by Anna Todd. I almost said Sarah J Maas then, but it's definitely not the sort of quality level of a Sarah J Maas book. I'm up to page 280. Wow, my lighting is really weird in here. Sorry, I'm using natural light at the moment to try and film. But yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this book and none of them are fabulous. I'm really beginning to hate these characters. I'm hating how Tessa finds a way to not only blame her own bad behavior on Hardin, but then also blame Hardin's bad behavior on everybody else around him. Like, he goes off at his dad for no reason at Christmas and just like makes fun of him about his alcohol abuse problems in the past, which one, I don't think it's ever okay to make fun of people for the things that they struggle with, that's just one thing. But secondly, like, he does it out of nowhere for no reason, and Tessa goes, oh, you know, it's all his dad's fault, you know, Hardin's perfectly justified in getting mad at his dad. I'm like, he's able to get mad at his dad for what he experienced as a result of his dad's sort of alcohol abuse, but this is out of nowhere and he's just making a jab like, oh, do you want a glass of wine, Dad? Oh yeah, I'm sure you really want one. I'm like, no, like, leave the poor man alone. Something I've noticed, which is really kind of weird, which I didn't notice in the first book when I read After, is that there are literal lines in this book that are directly copied in the movie, and I'm reading them in my head the way the actors in the movie said them. It's not an experience I've ever had with sort of content that's been delivered across multiple mediums, to have that text copied in such a way. And you can tell that when the sort of later movies were created, Anna Todd definitely had a lot more involvement in the script and the writing and all that sort of stuff, because the later movies feel a lot more like direct copies of her books than the first movie did, where it was sort of like inspiration and the scenes were the same, but it wasn't a direct copy. The last thing that I want to bring up is the letter that Hardin writes Tessa as sort of his way to be honest with her about everything that he's done in his life. And one thing I will say is I have to give him credit for the courage that it takes to write all of that down, put everything out on the line, and just go take it or leave it. You know, I appreciate that that was done on Hardin's part. What bugs me about that letter is that Tessa reads it and she's clearly floored by everything that Hardin's done and everything that, you know, all the actions that he's made in, or the choices that he's made in his life. But she then basically ignores the entire content of the letter and focuses on the last couple of paragraphs where he talks about her and how much he loves her. And when he comes back, she's like, oh, you know, I forgive you, and I'm just so happy that, you know, the things that you wrote about me, like, they made me smile so much. I'm like, did you forget the 7 other paragraphs where he talked about the multiple people he's like abused and tortured all of his life? Anyway, this book is sitting at a firm 1 star. But not a 1 star in that I'm going to DNF it. 1 star as in I'm enjoying reading this because it's just so dramatic and angsty and unrealistic, but it is not good. And the characters are shit. And there's just weird references to other books and direct copies from the text of other books, which I'm not sure if that counts as plagiarism. But yeah, anyway, as for what I'm up to at the moment, I'm in Wales now, so it's just gonna be a really chill, lovely weekend hanging out with our friend Mel and her pets. She's got a lovely cat and a lovely dog. So yeah, we're just gonna have a chill weekend and do nothing that's good for us, like junk food, cocktails, pizza. Like, pizza is junk food, but you know, all those sorts of things. We're just going to have super chill, easy weekend because I think we all need it. I will check in with you guys in a bit once I've read a bit more of this. And I'm probably going to continue to rant and rave about this book, and you guys are probably going to say to me down in the comments like, Beth, you should have known when you picked this up, but I can't help myself, I can't resist. I am back from Wales. I got back day before yesterday. Yeah, I got back on Sunday and it's now Tuesday. I'm just filming this before I get started with work for the day. Yeah, Wales was super fun. As I'm sure you saw from the clips that I just put in, we went to this big shopping center with all these designer stores and just had a bit of mooch around, pretending we're living the high life. I bought tons and tons of chocolate from this Cadbury like discount store. We just hung out with our friend Mel and her pets, her beautiful dog Nova and her beautiful cat Pole. And yeah, it was just an all-around good time, and it was exactly the kind of break that I needed after the hectic time that has been work and life and everything lately. So yeah, but I also managed to get some reading done, and I finished After We Collided by Todd, which I gave 1 star. And I think it was this book that made me decide that I want to use Corpile from this point onwards to do ratings, because when I was writing my review for this, I honestly just couldn't think of anything that I wanted to say about this book. Like, nothing was coming to mind. Nothing was like really jumping at me as things that are worth mentioning in the review. Like, if I just read you what I wrote in my little book, it says, "Man, this series is setting such unhealthy expectations. The way Tessa and Hardin treat each other is toxic, getting into fights every couple of chapters. The fights are almost always about the same thing too, so the story is outlandish and repetitive. The inclusion of Zed in the love triangle was confusing as his character wasn't clearly defined as a love interest or a nemesis. After We Collided was probably about 300 pages longer than it needed to be, and the structure of the story was very jumbled. There were a lot of plot holes, so I was constantly flipping pages trying to figure out what each character was referring to when they were fighting." It was really, really hard to give my thoughts on this book because I honestly had none. And that happens, I think, every time I read one of the books in the After series by Todd, because there's just not enough there to really like sink my teeth into and have any thoughts. But yeah, that was that, and we're gonna pretend that didn't happen, but it did get me my first sort of prompt ticked off for Magical Readathon, which was urban for my character. So my character is like an urban character or living in an urban setting, and the prompt was read a book set in a city or town. I've got my little sticky note on the back to remind me. So yeah, that's that done. Next up, we have A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. And this is the book that I chose for picking like the island that my character comes from, and the island I wanted to pick was Carador, and the prompt for that is to read a book from an ongoing series, which obviously this is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what this is about because spoilers, but that trilogy follows Feyre, who is a huntress who, in an effort to feed her family, she goes out into the forest and she kills a wolf, but soon finds out it is the wrong wolf when the High Lord of the Spring Court decides to pay her family in the human village a visit and demand retribution for her killing his shapeshifter friend. As it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, he demands that she come and live with him in the Spring Court, and it sets off this romance and also this curse that she begins to learn about that really threatens the lives of her own family over on the human side of the wall that separates the two sort of realms, I guess, the fairy realm and the human realm. There is trials and violence and seduction from a mysterious member of the Night Court. Wink wink, if you know, you know. And it's a really, really fun series, and it's part of my big Sarah J. Maas reread that I'm doing at the moment. So this is what I'm going to be getting stuck into next. As for right now, it is time for me to get to work. So I have to go and do that. And I will update you guys when I have some thoughts on A Court of Mist and Fury.
I've just realised that not only has it been a full week since I last updated you guys, I have also nearly finished my most recent read, which is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is part of my big Sarah J. Maas reread that I'm doing, as well as obviously being a part of my Magical Readathon catch-up that I'm doing at the moment to create my character. So this one I think is for creating the place that my character's from, which is Carador, where I have to read a book from an ongoing series. I've got my little sticky note where I keep track of all that in the actual book. But yeah, I've nearly finished this book and I am absolutely loving it. This is definitely my favorite book in the series, especially because one, the romance develops to a much healthier place, and then also Feyre as a character develops so beautifully. I think she goes from someone who I think is happy to be protected after spending her entire life looking after her family into someone who goes, no, I have this power and this ability to really make the most of who I have become and who I am now, and I don't want to just sit on the sidelines and let everybody do everything for me. Obviously, at the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses, we had the 1 week per month deal that Rhys made with Feyre, so she has to come and spend a week out of every month with him in the Night Court. So watching that take place and sort of the inconvenient times that he picks for her to spend that week with him has been really, really entertaining, especially as it frustrates Tamlin, who's just trying to protect her. And then obviously we get to meet some of his family, his like inner circle, as I think they're called, which has been a lot of fun because they're amusing, they're fun, they're protective, but they're also not going to just mollycoddle her and pretend that, you know, she's this sort of human who can't do anything, who can't contribute. You know, it's definitely a very, very supportive family group. I'm terrified of Amren, as I think everybody is, but I know what she's capable of towards the end of the series. So I'm kind of watching that friendship between her and Feyre develop and being like, honey, you got no idea what this bitch can do. Obviously, it's kind of hard to talk about this book without giving away a lot of what happens at the end of ACOTAR and a lot of the plot as well, because so much that happens in this book is so different to ACOTAR. It just in terms of setting and relationship and everything like that. Obviously, I am loving the relationship that is building between Rhys and Feyre. I love how bantery and how fun they are and how much he supports her, which is really, really good to see, especially after all the trauma and everything that Tamlin put her through. And then I've just gotten to the scene that everybody talks about when they talk about this book, which is like 400 and something, 500 pages in, I think, where she's in the cabin after finding out that Rhys is her mate and that he's lied to her. basically as long as they've known each other, and she is infuriated by that. And there's this scene where he goes, if you make me food, if you hand deliver food to me, that's like an important sign that you've accepted the bond. And so she hears everything he has to say, she hears his story, and she still delivers food to him. And I just loved that moment where you could see like you could feel the relief that he must have felt knowing that she was accepting him. So that was really, really beautiful, and I'm excited to sort of see where that goes and the reaction that his inner circle is going to have now that they've finally accepted the mating bond, because obviously everybody knows about it. The found family element is obviously amazing, and everybody knows that I absolutely love that, so I'm loving that in this book as well. And yeah, I'm nearly finished, and I know what's about to happen with Feyre's sisters, and I'm both terrified for it and really excited for it, because I know it was a really tense scene. I can't speak today, but yeah, that's what I'm up to. I'll probably update you guys my thoughts like on the end of the book once I'm actually at home and can, you know, write down my thoughts and get things a little bit more in order. But for today, I'm just going to chill in Greenwich Park, read my books, and yeah, see where we get to.
Hey guys, welcome back to my messy desk and the end of this reading vlog, because I haven't updated you guys since I finished A Court of Mist and Fury, and I also in that time finished Scythe by Neal Shusterman, which was a very unexpected absolute love of a book for me. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to tell you guys about A Court of Mist and Fury and what I thought of it. If you know anything about me, you know that with Sarah J Maas in general, and especially the ACOTAR series, I love every single character, every single moment, every single book. Every single one of these books is just an absolute 5-star read for me, and this one was no different. Sarah J Maas, particularly in this book, I think is really masterful in her ability to make you absolutely fall in love with some reservations. Sorry, there's construction going on in the background, but absolutely love with some reservations Tamlin in the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then within a couple of chapters of Akamath, she completely changes your entire perception of that character, and it's amazing how she does that. But whilst I hated him, I still understood him, because so much time was spent on his backstory and his motivations, and that is the case I think for all of the characters, especially in the ACOTAR universe. You just understand them because so much time is spent building them up, but building them up in a really interesting way through dialogue rather than potentially lengthy bits of text of internal monologue. On the other sort of Fae male side of things, we've got Rhys, and he is strong, powerful, protective, everything that you want in a sort of male romantic lead, whilst also not being overbearing, as I think it's a tenuous line to sort of tiptoe along, and I think Rhys does that masterfully, or Sarah J Maas does that masterfully with the character of Rhys, and the development that I think he goes through is really interesting, because at his soul, he doesn't, or at his core, he doesn't change all that much. It's just the way he becomes more open and honest about who he actually is and what he actually feels is what changes, and that's what develops through the story, and I think that was really beautifully done, the flirtations. And then of course we can't not talk about Feyre and the character development that she has throughout this entire story, which is really incredible as well, because she goes from someone who's willing to just be looked after and protected and just wants to live a safe life in ACOTAR, and then obviously goes through those major trials, realizes she's stronger than she ever thought possible, and then has her big transformation, and now she's not content to just live that safe, protected life anymore. And so the development that she goes through in this book, where she goes, no, I'm gonna fight for myself, I'm gonna learn how to look after myself, how to protect myself again, I think is really important, and the way Rhys enables that is really cool too. As for the plot in the story, I think it did kind of take a backseat, as middle books tend to do, especially middle books in a trilogy, because, you know, there's a lot of character development, a lot of world building, a lot of magic building that has to be done in order to sort of continue on with the world and prepare the reader for this larger battle that's going to come into play in the third book. And it was no different in this. There was a lot of character building, a lot of building in general, and not a heap of plot, but there still, I think, was that important underlying plot of this sort of treasure hunt, I guess, or scavenger hunt for the cauldron, or the book, I should say, not the cauldron, that flowed through the story and really drove the story and potentially the slower sort of character building moments, but also was really tied seamlessly in with the world building as well. Because of that like plot, you got to see aspects of the world that you wouldn't have or otherwise seen. I think the story that was placed really well, and Sarah J Maas understood the moments where it needed more internal dialogue, like the moments where Feyre was feeling trapped and really struggling. It needed that internalization to really trap you in the court with Feyre, and then also the moments where it was more important to have dialogue, like when she was learning about the inner circle of the Night Court, and that story needed to be told through dialogue. So she really, I think, struck that balance really well. And all in all, I think the story just flowed really well. It read well. It was was really, really readable. All the characters and their motivations were logical, they made sense, they outlined at the very beginning of the book the sort of aim that they were reaching towards, and then they just spent the rest of the book trying to reach that aim. And I really, really appreciate when a book just doesn't make things too complicated. So at the end of the day, I gave this book 5 stars. I really, really loved it, as I love all of these books, and it is a tick in my Sarah J Maas reread project that I'm doing at the moment, so now I can move on to the next one, which I think is back in Throne of Glass. But before I do that, I also finished Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Now, this book I think is on so many TBRs that are like, this book will self-destruct in 12 months, 25 before 25, all those sorts of TBRs. It's been on so many of them because I have had this book literally since the beginning, since I found out about BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And I have never gotten around to reading it because I picked it up based on one recommendation off of a booktuber that I don't actually watch anymore because our reading sort of interests aren't as aligned anymore, and I never got around to reading it because of that. But this absolutely threw me for a loop. Now, if you don't know what it's already about, I can't remember if I already told you, so I'm just gonna read the blurb, and it says, "Thou shalt kill. What if death was the only thing left to control? In a perfect world, the only way to die is to be gleaned by a professional scythe. When Citra and Rowan are chosen to be apprentice scythes, they know they have no option but to learn the art of killing. However, the terrifying responsibility of choosing their victims is just the start. Corruption is the order of the day, and Citra and Rowan need to stick together to fight it. Then they are told that one of them will have to glean the other." And just this sort of dystopia, utopia dynamic was fascinating, as well as these two characters who were sort of brought up into this world of the scythedom in the same way and then split off abruptly, and everything, just how they turned out after that was completely different. And the development of the two characters was so interesting. One was definitely more than the other in that they changed more because of the situation that they were put in, whereas the other character kind of stayed true to themselves. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I gave this book 5 stars, absolutely loved it. I really appreciated the couple of chapters at the beginning that really established who Citra and Rowan as people were before they were ever sort of brought into that scythe world. They were put in a moment where you saw their first interaction with a scythe, and how, so you could understand how much their characters changed just from that first interaction, where they obviously weren't very supportive through to actually becoming one and striving to become one themselves. I mean, the fact that this isn't a genre that I would usually read, but I still smashed it out in 2 days straight, could not put it down, is just a testament to its immersiveness and how much it thrusts you into this world. What I found really, really smart was not only the scattering of diary entries or journal entries from a number of different sites throughout the world, so you could see the different perspectives and the level of corruption that really lay at the core of the scythedom, but also the scattering of chapters of the people that were gleaned by certain sites. So you understood it from the flip side of the victim, I guess, and you understood not only the complexity of how it felt to be a scythe and be doing that, and the moral dilemma there, but also how it felt to be on the receiving end of that, and the fear and the terror that was sort of rooted in this world. The pacing was really, really smooth with short chapters and minimal sort of stagnant moments throughout the story. And whilst I wouldn't say it was action-packed, it really did feel like every moment that you read was leading to some larger point or larger reveal or twist that was going to come into play at the end of the story. So everything felt like it meant something. You felt like you had to pay attention constantly, which is great. Everything the characters did, their motives made sense, even when the twist happened and their motives completely flipped. The way that they flipped and the way that the characters then changed and developed throughout the story made sense considering the situations that they were put in. And I am just so excited to read the rest of this series. I have literally gone and bought everything, and I'm so excited for the last book, I think it is, Gleanings, to come out, or at least the most recent one. I gave this book 5 stars. It was an unexpected love for me, and that is the end of my character creation. With that, I now have my character for Magical Readathon. It has taken me so long to get to this point. I think this vlog has been going on for about 2 weeks now because I've just been reading other things interspersed with this and struggling to pick up books at certain times and get the audiobooks so I can read and listen at the same time. It's been a struggle, but we have my character, and now I can go on to the novice path for Magical Readathon and start reading some of the books for that. But I'm going to be saving that all for another vlog, so you guys are just going to have to wait and see for when that eventually comes out. I might split that vlog into 2 parts because I think there's like 6 or 7 books that I'm going to be reading as part of it. So let me know if you are looking forward to hearing more about that, if you're enjoying this sort of Magical Readathon catch up, if you are taking part in Magical Readathon at the moment, where you are up to, what you've been reading. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing and hitting that notification bell all down below. It is a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!